In this video, we're going to write code which will run when the user types something inside the text area. So this will happen in a couple of scenarios. So the first one is when the user creates a new note. So basically, the user will click on Add Notes. This will create a new note in the notes table with empty content. And then as they type something in the text area, the content of the note is going to be updated. Okay, so that's the first scenario. The second scenario is when the user clicks on an existing note, then they will be able to update the content of that note. So whatever they type in the text area is going to become the new content of the existing note. Okay, so let's start with the first scenario. So the first scenario is when the user clicks on Add Note. Okay, then they will see the text area there and they can start typing the content of the new note. So at the moment, if I type anything here, okay, and then go back to the list of notes, I'm not going to see the new note. And the reason why is because the new note is still empty, and by the time I get here, all empty notes get deleted. Okay, so I won't see the new notes. Now, what we're going to do, whatever the user types in this text area is going to become the new content of our notes. So the way we're going to do this is by using the key up function. So we're going to select the text area, and then basically we're going to say whenever we've got a key up, we're going to get the content of the note. Okay, that's the content of the note, and we're going to send that content to a PHP file along with the ID of the note, and we're going to ask the database or the table to update that note content for us. Okay, so let's go ahead and do this. So we're going to look at this piece of code, typing a note. So first of all, I'm gonna select the text area. Again, we've got only one text area inside our document, so we can select the text area using the text area tag. Okay, and then we're going to use the key up function. Okay, so inside this function, we're going to write the function to execute whenever we've got a key up. All right, so now we're going to send an AJAX call. Okay, so this call is going to be sent to the update note file. Okay, and we get looking here at the task of ID active note. So if you remember, when we clicked on add note, we set the variable active note to the ID of the newly created note. Okay, and if I want to show that, that's where it happened. Okay, so we updated the variable to the ID of the notes. Okay, the variable data here holds the ID of the notes in that case. All right, so let's write our AJAX call. So the syntax is going to be similar to this one, so we can copy this one and just customize it. Okay, so the URL in this case is update notes.php. Okay, now we are going to be sending data this time, so we need to specify the type of our AJAX call. So we're going to use the post method. Okay, then we're going to have another parameter for our AJAX call. It's data. So basically, this refers to whatever we're going to send through the AJAX call. So let's add a quick comment there just to make sure everything is clear. So we need to send the current nodes, okay, or current nodes content with its ID, okay, to that PHP file. Okay, we're going to need both these, okay, to run the query later on to the PHP file. Okay, so just make sure you don't mix up this data, which is a parameter inside our AJAX call, with that data, okay, which is just a variable. It's whatever it's returned if the AJAX call is successful. You can call that data anything you like. You can call it data returned, like that. And just make sure you change that to data returned as well. Okay? But if you want to keep its data, you can keep its data. But just make sure you don't mix it up with that data, which is a parameter of our AJAX call. Alright, so the information we need to send through our AJAX call will contain a couple of things. So we're going to have the content of our nodes. So I'm going to call it nodes. And we're going to have the ID of the nodes. I'm going to call it ID. Okay. So the PHP file is going to receive these two parameters using the post method. Okay. So the content of our nodes can be retrieved by selecting the text area, okay, and using the val function. So to select the text area, I can use the text area tag again. Otherwise, I can just use the keyword this, okay, because we have already selected the text area there and we are inside it at the moment. Okay. All right. So the content can be accessed using the function val, like that. And then the ID of the nodes is inside the variable active nodes. Okay. All right. So now let's see what we're going to do if the call is successful. Okay. Or let's rather start with the case where we've got an error with the AJAX call. We're going to have the same error message that we're going to show inside our alerts message. Okay. So now if it's successful, we're going to have a couple of scenarios. So if everything goes fine and the query is successful inside our PHP file, we're not going to do anything. We're just going to let the user keep typing. Okay. But if there is an error, the PHP file is going to return error. Okay. So, and that's what we're going to do here. So if the PHP file returns error, which means that data equals error. Okay. Then we're going to change the content of our alert message. Okay. Let's copy that code. Okay. And we're going to write something like there was an issue inserting or updating the notes in the database. Okay. So you would get this if you're typing the notes and all of a sudden you lose your internet connection, then you will see this error message or alert message showing up right there. Okay. And to show the alert message, we're just gonna use this line of code, which will introduce some animation as well. Okay. So let's save. Now let's go to our update note file. Okay. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is get the ID of the nodes which is sent through Ajax. So the ID corresponds to the variable ID, okay, which we sent through the Ajax call. So to get it, let's create a variable that's going to call ID, and we're just going to access our post array, okay, and we're looking at this key inside the post array, which is ID. Okay. Now let's do the same thing with the contents of the node. So let's create a variable that we're going to call node. And again, we're going to use the post array. Okay. And the key is going to be the same as that. Okay. Now let's get the current time using the time variable, and so it's inside a time using a time function, and so it's inside a time variable. So that's the current time. So we need the current time because we're going to update the time column, okay, for that node. All right, now we're going to run a query which will update our nodes. So let's create the query. So the syntax is update our nodes table. Okay, and we're going to set the nodes field or column to the variable nodes. Okay, also we're going to set the time to the time variable. Okay, and the condition is going to be the ID of the node. So we're going to do that and that for the nodes with ID equals that ID. Okay, so let's execute our query using the MySQLi underscore query function. So it will take the link variable and the query. Then we're going to check if we get any errors. Okay, so we're going to check the opposite of results. Okay, so if anything goes wrong, result is going to return false instead of an object, and well, instead of true, because we're using an update query. If we had a select query, then if it's successful, we'd have an object. So in this case, we're going to get either false or true. Okay, so if we get any problem, then we're going to echo error. Okay, so and that error is what we refer to in here. Okay, so if the data returned by the PHP file is error, then we do this. Okay, so let's save and try our code. So let's refresh the page and let's create a new node. So now we need to see a new node with empty content in our table. So let's refresh the table. So that's our new node, okay, with empty content. Its ID is 14, right? So now let's start typing something inside our nodes. Okay, so we've got an error with the Ajax call, so something went wrong. So let's have a look at our code and see what happened. So let's have a look at the JavaScript file. Okay, So we've got the wrong name of the file. So it's update notes, not update notes. Okay, so let's save and try again. Okay, so let's create a new note. Okay. And then refresh the page again. Okay, so we've got a new note and its ID is 15. Now let's start typing something. And let's refresh our table. And here we go. We can see that the content of our notes has been updated. Let's add one letter and see what happens. Okay, perfect. We can see that the note has been updated again. All right. So now we have covered how to change the content of a new note. So now if I go back to the list of notes, I'm supposed to see the new notes in the list. Okay, and we can see it there. All right. All right. So in the next video, we are going to look at how we're going to edit an existing note. So basically, when we click on a note and then change the content in the text area, we want to see the content getting updated in the notes table. Okay.